Shalom, all praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Akakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rule royal. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Ainam. The title of the video is BRICS Emerging as Reality, right, in the New World Order. And this was taken from the BRICS portal website, right, which BRICS consists of these nations here, right, that have come together to, basically try to, get away from the dollar, get away from America, get away from the West, all right? I think it originally started with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and you got the S there, not too sure about that. But I believe those were the original, people that founded this. All right. And so they're getting away from the dollar. They're getting away from the West. They're getting away from America, away from the sanctions, away from the tariffs. All right. Because America is, it's done pretty much. And that's what the title is going into. Right. It says BRICS emerging as reality in the New World Order. And there's, it's clear as day. America is done. The West is done. Right. America as a global superpower is failing. Right. They're losing the war. In Iran, they can't protect their allies, whether it be Japan, Taiwan, or in these different areas, right? All the bases are going out of the Middle East. And BRICS, again, consists of these different nations that are now witnessing, these different countries that are now witnessing America go out bad. They're losing. They're pulling equipment from these, different areas around the world to try to help themselves over there in West Asia, right? And they're losing bad, all right? So let's get this. Let me just read this, all right? Because this goes into a lot. This is Bible prophecy. We have, America falling and whatnot. Russia destroying them pursuant to Ezekiel 38. So the BRICS emerging as a new reality, meaning that America is not going to be in charge when it's said and done. All right. Yeah, go over here. I'm gonna read this. Okay. Okay, this is what I want right. All right, this is Jeremiah 50 and 23. It says, "How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations?" Right? It says, "I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware, thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord Yahweh, watching thou shalt." Now, this quagmire that they got themselves into over there in the Middle East, is showing that they're done, they're finished. All right, so I'm gonna read this. It says, this was by Dr. Aaron Mitra. All right, this is what he said. It said in the last G7 summit, in addition to the 7 member states, several other countries, including India, Brazil, South Korea, Kenya, Ukraine, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates were invited to participate. This may reflect a growing realization among the G7 powers that their global dominance was no longer as unchallenged as it once was. Right? As their influence gradually declines, they find it increasingly necessary to engage emerging powers. Yet, despite this changing reality, these countries continue to pursue a worldview rooted in an imperialist outlook. So the Most High is stirring things up, causing a change. There at the G7, other nations are popping up now that wouldn't be invited years prior. Joel 3 and 9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say, I am strong. All right, so the weaker nations around the world, um, you know, they're now able to come to the big boys table. All right. This is started started 5. This is Isaiah 14 and 5. It says, the Lord Yahweh Bashim shall broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continuous stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet, they break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirred up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Right? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy bowels, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? All right, so this is talking about America, right? They have become weak. The nations around the world saying, "Oh, you weak like us." You're not really a superpower. You know, NLT Isaiah 14 and 5, it says, for the Lord Yahweh Bashim has crushed your wicked power and broken your evil rule. You struck the people with endless blows of rage and held the nations in your angry grip with unrelenting tyranny. But finally, the earth is at rest and quiet. Now it can sing again. Even the trees of the forest, the cypress trees and the cedars of Lebanon sing out this joyous song. Since you have been cut down, no one will come now to cut us down. In the place of the dead, there is excitement over your arrival. The spirits of world leaders and mighty kings long dead stand up to see you. Now, this goes a little deeper, reincarnation, because the same spirits that were back, in time past are now back today, right? Just like the prophets are now back here prophesying the downfall, right, of the current world, right? The rulership, the age, the time period we're living in now. Isaiah 14:9 says, in the place of the dead, there's excitement over your arrival. The spirits of world leaders and mighty kings long dead stand up to see you. With one voice, they all cry out, now you are weak as we are. Your might and power were buried with you. The sound of your harp in your palace has ceased. Now maggots are your sheep and worms your blanket. How are you fallen from heaven, O shining star, son of the morning? You have been thrown down to the earth, you who destroyed the nations of the world. Now, ultimately, this ends with America being destroyed, right? But they're now seeing that that end is imminent. Right? The nations around the world is talking shit. It says so it's going on. It says the establishment of the Soviet Union marked the beginning of the decline of the colonial and imperial domination. By the middle of the 20th century, most countries had achieved political independence. However, they continue to face enormous developmental and security challenges because their economies, right, have been systematically exploited under colonial rule. While they were denied the opportunity to build independent security structures, during this period, the developing world came together through the non-aligned movement, creating new possibilities for cooperation, peace, and development. Around 1990, following the disintegration of the socialist camp, the global balance of power shifted dramatically. The United States emerged as the sole self-proclaimed superpower and sought to advance a unipolar imperialist agenda. However, recent developments, particularly following the U.S. attack on Iran and its inability to extricate itself from the resulting conflict, have significantly weakened America's global standing right? Its principal ally in West Asia, Israel, has also suffered a decline in international legitimacy, right? So its principal ally. So, they say Israel is the greatest ally, and that's why Israel and America are going to be destroyed together, right? And it was Israel that dragged America into this war, a war that they cannot win, right? Which was a snare laid for them by the Mosai Yahweh watching our shot, and now they're in, right? And they're going all out trying to save themselves, and it's turning the road against them, and they're just getting weaker and weaker by the day. Israel is now viewed by many not only as an aggressor, but also as a state accused of committing genocide, right, with its conduct facing serious scrutiny in international institutions. Yeah, this man, Benjamin Netanyahu, right, Bibi, is wanted for war crimes, wanted by the International Court. Even a mayor in New York stated in the news publicly that he will arrest this guy because he's a wanted criminal, which he, retracted that statement. But nonetheless, it was said into the minds and hearts of the people of the world, right? Which the mind and heart is the same thing. But anyway, it says, at the same time, the growing strategic partnership between Russia and China points toward the emergence of a new international order, right? The New World Order, which the New World Order is going into, the digital system, right? So they're not going to look to America to forward this digital system. They're not going to look to America to be like the head. They're going to look to Russia and to China, right? But this digital system, is their end. And I have this here because you have this BRICS thing going on, and I don't know if they rotate who's in charge per year or something like that. But anyway, India is in charge right now. All right, I don't know if that's like forever, who's the head or whatever the case may be. But I think they kind of rotate around. So India's digital revolution modeled for global South seeking non-Western alternatives. Now, India's a part of BRICS, and moving forward, they're going to move forward with BRICS. America's not a part of BRICS. That was the old world order. This is the new world order. And, that's why some people call this World War III like a fight for energy and resources. Who controls the new world order? And America's losing. But anyway, India digital revolution is a model for the global South. It says India has achieved one of the fastest expansions of financial inclusion in history. In less than a decade, the country brought roughly 500 million people into the formal banking system, an unprecedented scale that has drawn attention across the developing world, including Brazil, which saw a parallel surge in digital payments during the pandemic. Right. Despite the inherent complexity of implementing large-scale public policies in the world's most populous country, India integrated hundreds of millions of citizens into digital finance. In 2016, launched a unified payment interface, UPI. The platform is now widely regarded as the world's largest real-time payment system, processing nearly 20 billion transactions each month. Its design and rapid adoption, directly inspired Brazil's official instant payment system. These achievements have positioned India as a leading architect of public digital infrastructure and practical model for the global South. The South Asian country has shifted from primarily exporting technology talent to exporting complete public technology solutions. So as you can see, talking about payment system and the digital world, and they say India has done something unprecedented, right? And is leading, countries to, also follow suit. And we know this is headed by the banking elites. It says India is also advancing rapidly in artificial intelligence with a reported 263% increase in the number of solutions developed since 2016. Alongside software strength, the country is investing in hardware capabilities, including semiconductor manufacturing, while placing its explicit emphasis on ethical standards, security, and the responsible use of technology. India's experience shows that a well-structured public digital infrastructure can accelerate processes that usually take decades in the financial and administrative sectors. This provides a model for other countries seeking inclusive growth without depending on conditional Western platforms that can easily restrict access, as Russia experienced in 2022 when it was cut off from Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, and Flip. Yeah, so they're moving around this American system, and America is losing the war. All right, so it's just forwarding that BRICS is reality moving forward to push this system. And it's going to be the head of it, right? This digital system, which is the MOTB, this Relations 13 and 16. Matter of fact, Revelations 13 and 15, it says, and he is the wicked, right? The self-proclaimed white man, the Edomites of the world, starting with the elite class, the banking elite. And he had the power to give life unto the image of the beast. The image of the beast is the new world order, right? The digital technocracy they're setting up right now says that the image of the beast should both speak. So it's gonna go to fruition, right? It's actually gonna happen, right? It says, and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So you're gonna be X'd out, if you don't follow suit for what's going on. And he calls all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell again with that money. So the money is going to be digital, and the money is going to be inside of you. That's the whole thing about this. The whole system of this payments and going, to the system is really harping on money, right? But behind closed doors, it's all about controlling the people, right? It says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark for the name of the beast, for the name of his name. Right? So we know this is the MOTB. Says today's world is neither that of the Soviet era nor of the non-aligned movement. Nevertheless, BRICS has opened new possibilities for developing countries to strengthen cooperation, pursue development through mutual partnership. Right. Another important development has been China's rapid rise as both an economic and military power. Pakistan's international profile has also improved owing to its reported role in facilitating discussions related to a possible understanding between Iran and the United States, a country that had largely lost its economic credibility and geopolitical relevance, has once again found itself attracting international attention. And what this guy is going to is that India needs to, show its credibility, right? But he pointed out that, basically the old world is at an end, right? Was it? 6, 9, and 9 and 6. This is Ecclesiasticus. Sorry. Wait a second. As you saw it. It says Ecclesiastes, second Ezra chapter 6 and verse 9, it says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. Right. And we see these devils trying to bring about the new world order. And to bring about the new world order, the old system has to die. Right. But what they don't know is that, it's the end for them. All right. Once they set the system up, it makes it impossible for the elect, right, of the Lord to operate in this world, because we're commanded not to take this chip, right? We're commanded not to accept this system. I forgot what I was just about to go. But I'm gonna go over here where it says we don't take it. Yeah, because it says it in 13 that because all that who don't take it, that they should die. Right. It says in verse 15, he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Right. And we're commanded not to worship it, because if you worship it, it's doomed. So it's doomed for worshipers of the beast. Right. So we know that we're going to be put in that fire, and we don't want that. All right. So the Most High is going to save us out of this destruction. and deliver us from being, basically put to death. Job 20 and 22. It says, in the fullness of his, but in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand the wicked shall come upon him, right? And this wicked, the word wicked there just goes into the laborer, the peoples, right? So we have these different podcasts coming up. You have the uproars of the people, the marchings on the streets, right? The people, pushing for Russia instead of Ukraine, separation from America and Israel, things like that happen around the world. It says, when he is about to fill his belly, Yahweh Bashmi shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. He shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bull still shall strike him through. It is drawn and cometh out of the body, yeah, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall, terrors are upon him. All right, and this is talking about the nuclear missiles that will be shot in this World War III as America tries to keep its power, right? It doesn't want BRICS to be the rally. It wants to stay important, right? So it's going to go all out and die doing it. All right. So, just want to bring it out. Lord willing, you'll edify from this lesson. Shalom to the hopeful elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.